And we're live. Hey, y'all, we are in Johannesburg.
Yes, we are. Still.
Yeah, I saw Action VJ. Where in the world is our Black Utopia? Oh, gosh, did I really keep that second tab open?
You did.
I did. Okay, but I just closed it. So we've got an amazing show for you planned, but I don't like the way this is situated. Hold on. Let's turn it this way just a little bit. Okay, there we go.
Is that my good side?
I don't know if that's your good side, but it's my good side, and that's what's most important.
I think
so. We are in South Africa, and we've got an amazing guest. Y'all know who she is. She is part of the Exodus Summit community, and she has started her own community down here in, I'm going to say Southern Africa, and you'll understand why I'm saying Southern Africa as opposed to South Africa. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So, the interesting thing is that so this is not our first rodeo. This is not our first time in Johannesburg. This is not our first time in South Africa, as y'all know. I thought it was about a decade ago, but actually it's about 15 years ago. I had a fellowship here. And so we were here for about a month, actually down at the Cape Town area.
Stellenbosch, Cape Town. We kind of went through Johannesburg to go on safari.
Yeah, but we were here for about 48 hours. But where we were, I believe that things have changed. And we're going to talk about some of that too. I believe that things have changed. I got to hang out with my stepsister. I got to hang out with her family and my niece and nephew. And that was so cool. We've been doing some talking, the adults were doing some talking and we were talking about how life is for them here in South Africa.
Yeah, we met new friends.
And we met new friends, yes. And the one thing that I have to say is hanging out today at the basketball tournament, the way the kids interact here is very, very healthy. What I could see just sitting back and looking was very, very healthy.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so I love that for us. And when I say us, I mean people who look like us. I know I'm not from any tribe down here, but they look like us. So I'm going to say us. That's good for us. Right?
Yeah.
So I am excited.
Me too. But before we get too excited, why don't we introduce ourselves?
Okay. So I don't see anybody new in the chat right now. Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. So if you all don't know, hey, y'all. My name is Halisi.
And I'm Rick. Welcome to our Black Utopia.
On our channel, we talk about money, travel, and retiring abroad as we build generational wealth. We help folks who look like us, getting close to retirement age, ain't got their money straight, get their money straight so that they can retire on time or maybe even early, right?
Oh, yeah.
So who is our special guest today?
Ashley in Africa.
Y'all know there are not too many strong voices as far as I'm concerned that are talking about, folks from North America moving to Southern Africa. So if Africa is on your list, if the continent is on your list and Southern Africa may be on your list, you have got to check out Ashley in Africa.
And I was watching one of her videos today, and Cortez Ross came to mind because of something she said.
Yeah.
America has us all jacked up.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, come on, they oppress us.
Yes.
And then they give us a little bit of leeway, and then they snatch it back.
Yep. That's what they do because it's just America is that abusive spouse. They're that physically abusive spouse that slaps you and then says, but I love you. You just made me do that, right?
You made me do
That's America. So I'm sorry, y'all. But still vote so it doesn't get worse.
Definitely.
Right? But first, if you are new to our channel, then you might not know. About 7.5, 8 years ago, Rick and I, we did get that wake-up call. We looked at our money. We were getting close to retirement age. We looked at our money, and it looked crazy.
Crazy.
Why y'all get him started with that?
Hey, it's y'all's fault.
But about 3.5, 4 years ago, we got our financial act together, and we went from negative 22,000 to over 1.1 million in net worth. So If any of that sounds interesting to you, please hit that subscribe button so that you are part of the family. We already know that about 50% of you who watch regularly are not even subscribed.
Subscribe, hit that like button, and share.
You have commitment issues. What is it?
Come on now, we love you.
Go on.
We'll be very good. We won't
and then
be
hit
the
that
abusive,
notification, right?
We won't be the abusive United States on you.
No, we won't do that. We're going to love up on you and show you how to live the life that you want to live. So hit that notification bell so that you know every single time we go live or drop a new video. I know Rick has got some drone footage. He's putting some stuff together on South Africa. Yes. And so it's going to be really
It's going to be real nice.
But
let's give him some warnings.
Oh, yes. Thank you. So we're not wired in, we're on Wi-Fi. Hopefully the load shedding schedule that I saw is correct and we won't run into that, although we're in a place that's going to shut down for a second, come back up. But I just want to warn you, if for some reason the Wi-Fi goes crazy and we don't have a good interview, we will have Ashley back because she will give you the 411 on everything Southern Africa, as well as building a business and bringing your family here. Kids, right? All right, here we go. Hey, Ashley.
Hey, Ashley.
Hi.
How are you?
How you doing?
Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, introduce yourself better than we introduced you, because I know you can.
No, I appreciate it. Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Cleveland. I have a channel here on YouTube called Ashley in Africa. On that channel, I talk about my experience of living, moving, and doing business on the continent. I've been living in Africa for nearly going on 4 years. In October, it will be 4 years. And I've lived in both Tanzania and South Africa. So I am currently in South Africa, in Johannesburg. I love it. I'm a mom of 2 children, 2 daughters to be exact, ages 5 and 12. When we arrived, they were 2 and 8.
Wow.
9? Yeah, 2 and 9. Okay. Yeah, and it's been a beautiful experience. I also founded a community of entrepreneurs that have a desire to move to the continent, and they're building location independent businesses. So remote businesses so that they can earn an income anywhere in the world and intentionally bring building strategies to the continent of Africa. So thank you, Rick and Halisi, for having me. And hello, everyone in the comments.
Yeah, we've got a lot. I'm putting Ashley's information in, and I'm going to put it in again into the chat. Do not click away. Just copy it and paste it someplace else, babies. Okay? Don't click away because everything you want to know we're going to say, and then you will have more questions and you'll want to get in touch with Ashley. So the first thing that I want to know is you moved about 3.5, 4 years ago from where? To Southern Africa. Why? And as a single mom, no less.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So I moved in October of 2020 during the global experience that we all had, the pandemic. And I originally made the move to Dar es Salaam, Tanzania from Atlanta, Georgia. So I've been living in Atlanta, Georgia at the time for about 13 years off and on, moving back and forth to Miami, Florida, New York for work. And so I had spent like a collective of about 13 years. And if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I was never leaving Atlanta. And then, when COVID happened, that was March when we all had to sit down, but that January, I had actually been laid off for the 3rd time in 5 years. I was working at a tech startup, and hindsight, I think they kind of knew it was happening, because all of the developers were in Asia, or in the continent of Asia, some in Taiwan and some in India. And, but, had been laid off for the 3rd time in 5 years. And I was a higher earner, more of a senior level. And so, but I had just, it really just destroyed me essentially. But in that same process, I realized that I had just been burning out, burning the candle from two ends, and decided to like get into some intense therapy during that time. And in that journey and in that process of just taking a minute, I realized that I wasn't clear on my values. I really wasn't even clear on what was important to me. I was just kind of operating in this cycle of execution, doing, taking care of. And all in all, the experience that had us all kind of sitting down and taking note, I just evaluated what life was looking like and decided that if I wanted to see a change, I had to be willing to make a change. And that change came in the form of relationships. It came in the form of physical location. It came in the form of how I wanted to spend my time and who I wanted to spend my time with. And always desired to move abroad. But at the time, I really just thought that it was for students, people in the military, and people
Right.
who worked
Right.
for global corporations. I didn't really look at it as a concept of something that I could do, especially after having children. Like I just thought, that's over for me.
Right.
And I just started to do a little bit of research and had already traveled with my children domestically before, like just by myself with them. And I figured like, okay, let's see. And it started at just saying, okay, I'm gonna go shelter in place in Florida. And then Florida looked like Jamaica. And then Jamaica looked like Tanzania. And Tanzania was really only supposed to be a sabbatical until restrictions were lifted. And it turned into 2 years.
Wow.
Wow.
And so, yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So we're going to say hi to the folks in the chat in a minute. But so your youngest daughter, she's too young to really understand what was going on at 2. But your
Yep.
older one did. She knew.
Mhm.
And so how was her transition and her adjustment?
Yeah. So, at the time, everyone was at home,
Mhm.
right? So kids weren't even really connecting with each other.
Right.
And so once I decided, I decided around June that Tanzania was the place. So we watched videos about Tanzania. I drew kind of this really big vision board, and I drew kind of what the city looked like. And I talked about, that, it was on the beach and these are the type of foods people eat. Really all the stuff that I was looking at online. And we looked at it on a map, and I showed her like, this is how far the plane is going to go, and she was for the adventure. We
Oh,
had
good.
traveled before.
Yeah.
She had started traveling as young as like 1 years old.
Mhm.
And so she was down really for the adventure. And for people that may not know, at the time, Tanzania was one of the only countries that remained open during, the height of the pandemic. The late
Okay.
president, Dr. John Pombe Magufuli, was, a Pan-African. He was very much about sovereignty for his nation. He pushed back against a lot of the global infiltration and like ideation around certain things. So he was like, I don't know about this thing. He tested, in the media, he tested a goat and a mango, and both of them came back positive. And so he was like,
Wow.
we're open for business. And so he was one of the only, leaders that decided to keep the country open at the time. So when we arrived, life was pretty much as normal. I mean, kids were still in school, but the lifestyle is totally different in Tanzania compared to the lifestyle that most live, in the US. So children are educated outside. Food is abundantly available, fresh, natural, non-genetically modified, organic foods. People are eating refrigeration is a luxury for most, the majority of the population. So you're eating your food very fresh.
Right.
And so life was pretty normal when we arrived there. So the girls were able to enroll in school immediately, started making friends, started immediately engaging in the culture. And just yesterday, they were both asking, when are we going back to visit Tanzania? So overall, I mean, my oldest daughter, she's adjusted really well. They both speak, multiple languages.
Wow.
My oldest was learning Swahili and French in Tanzania. Now she's learning Zulu, isiZulu. My youngest learned Swahili as well. Now she's learning Itswana and isiZulu. If you ask her if she's South African, she'll say yes, and she'll tell you that she's Zulu. So, they don't really, they love it. I think my oldest, we try to keep her in contact with a lot of her friends, and the things that, her peers are talking about and experiencing in the US, she can't relate to. Things like safety concerns, or just, the fake nails. She's 12, right? And she's
But
12,
no, we don't
like,
do no, we do not do fake nails at 12. Not Mama Vincent did not allow.
listen, the lace fronts, the chaos in the classroom,
At 12?
like at 12, like what the teachers are experiencing. Because I also, she went to Kip's Drive. I love the Kip brand, the Kip ethos, right? I had a lot of friends that went through KIP, and it's a great organization, Black teachers, Black principals, and that was really important to us. And I've maintained a lot of friendships.
Not the KIP in Denver, baby.
Well, because it depends on the location, right? Because they are technically supposed to be in these, areas that are high risk, right? Like that's kind of some of the energy around it. But the KIP that she went to was one of the ideal KIPs to attend.
Yeah, sounds like
but
it.
Saying that to say that just the things that the teachers are dealing with and the challenges. I mean, while we were in Tanzania, that was 2021, they had gone back to school. There was a I don't want to say the word pum pum, like there was a pum puming happening. Not active.
Say it.
Well, not an active shooter, but it was like at a football game. The parents got into an altercation. One pulled a gun out. And then a couple of days later, was like 4th of July weekend. 3 of her classmates were shot. 2 of them died. And that was 2021, July in Atlanta.
Gosh.
Yeah.
I bet that was devastating for her.
She actually didn't. I found out, and I found she didn't. So it was also like, it wasn't her age. She would have been in the 6th grade. And I think these were like 7th graders, right? So a little older than her.
Knew them or whatever.
But still peers. Exactly. Like I was still, at the time, I was still receiving parent emails from the school and all of that. And that's actually how I found out. So essentially, I do talk to her about certain situations that are happening. I try not to bombard her. I also try not to bombard myself and disconnect as much as possible. But I think that overall, the challenges that I saw her facing, she is no longer facing, right? She still has challenges. She's a child, like she's going through puberty, she's in secondary, high school, but the challenges of being criticized because of her skin color, or feeling like she has to mute herself in rooms or spaces, she's not dealing with those things. And her self-esteem isn't at risk of just like the structure of the society that, we deal with growing up in America. Yeah.
It's interesting because I was talking to my stepmother, or chatting actually via chat, my stepmother about an hour before we came on. And so she and my sister and her other kids and husband at the time moved here right after apartheid, like I want to say 96, 97, something like that. And she lived here until about 2006. But my my stepsister is still here. Mm-hmm. She went to Howard, came back, and she has 2 kids. And it's funny because her accent has changed.
Yeah.
It's changed. Aisha, if you're watching, you sound different, sweetie.
It's that accent. It's a beautiful accent.
Oh, it is. It's beautiful, definitely. English always sounds better with an accent. And I don't mean a New Jersey accent either. I mean a non-American accent.
Yes, it's true.
Right? But the one thing, even with all of the challenges that are going on here, and we will talk about some of the challenges because we don't want to just paint rosy pictures of the places that we move, because even though it's a better experience than we were having in the United States, no place is perfect. But she was saying it's a wonderful place to raise Black kids. And and the atmosphere is so different. The culture is so different, and it is a nurturing culture that actually makes our kids a lot more confident and grow. And I saw the change with my sister from when she was in Atlanta, and she would come out to LA and stay with me. And I'm like, okay, little girl, let me tell you something, because there's a 16-year difference. Let me tell you something. When she came back from South Africa, it was, all of the isms that are so America were gone. Were gone. And, and I have to say, she's browner than I am. And I know how America does with our chocolate girls. My sister's gorgeous. Okay. I'm just going to say that right off the bat. She is gorgeous regardless. And I don't know if she ever had any issues around her skin color or anything else. But she certainly did when she came back. My gorgeous sister married her gorgeous husband, and they've been married ever since, and just the confidence of knowing that she got married at 22. I was like, you're too young, but she knew who she was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think invaluable.
Yes.
It truly is, right?
Okay.
Phyllis says she moved in 1998.
Oh, 98. Was it that long? Okay. There she is.
Hi, beautiful Phyllis. That's right.
Look, we would not be sitting here if it wasn't for Phyllis, my stepmother, because when she called me out of the blue talking about, are you investing? I was like, I got 401k. She's like, no, baby, that's not what I'm talking about. We're going to get serious with this, and I'm going to show you how.
Yeah.
I would not be here. I would not
true
be
blessing.
Here, right? We would not be, we would not be retired or anything else. Okay, this is not working on here. I keep forgetting it's on glass. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, we are going to see who is in the chat right quick before we continue this conversation. You guys know the drill. If you want your comment or your question to be seen, you need to put a Q in front of it. Frederica's already on point because it's a lot of talking going on. A lot to do. So we missed you down there in Cape Town with Exodus Summit, girlfriend. We had a ball.
I know y'all did.
Being loud and rowdy and out of control in these wineries and everything else.
I wish I could have took my drone down there and flew it and just caught y'all on.
Right.
Right.
It looked like such a good time.
It was
such a good time. And I had like these commitments that I had, and I was just like, oh,
yeah,
I can't do it.
And they're talking about this is going to be the last one.
In Instagram. What? That means that is AKA we need a chair to step up and take on the work. So step up, community, somebody be the chair,
right?
And pass the torch.
Right.
Because that congregating of Black women it cannot stop. It cannot stop. It is so powerful.
It is so powerful. It is so powerful. So, hey, Action VJ, hit that like button.
Well, wait a minute. He's making this look like Waldo.
I know.
What in the world is, or what's
that's a dream. So when I was younger, before I even met Rick, I always dreamed about being a world traveler. Um, and there were all these places, all of these movies. I look at these movies that took place in other places around the world, and it's like, okay, that's on my list. Who's that cutie up at 10:30 at 11 o'clock at night? Do you
Correct.
have do you have school tomorrow, baby girl?
She can't hear you, but no, they are on a midterm break. So they don't have
Ah,
school until Tuesday. So they're taking
okay,
full advantage. But the
okay.
eyes are being rubbed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thank
I,
you.
I was
Yep.
watching one of your videos, and was she the one that came out and asked you a question, and she went
And
back
slam the
and
door.
slammed the door?
Yes, it was her.
Okay.
Look, I'm in the house. This is my show. Y'all didn't know.
Hmm.
Y'all didn't know. Hey,
Yes.
Mary, good to see you. Meriton is in the
Hey,
house.
Meriton.
Vanessa is in the house. Greta, we love you.
Hey, Greta.
Hey, Kimmy. Oh, wait. Let me go back up because Taboho. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, baby. I hopefully I didn't just totally mess it up. He has been waiting for 2 hours for this to start. So hopefully you are still here and enjoying the show. Hey, Jeanette, good to see you. Diana's in the house.
Frederica.
Frederica from North Carolina. Hey,
Ra.
Ra. Marguerite is in the house.
Hey, Marguerite.
Lisbon, we miss you
We miss you
guys.
guys in Lisbon.
It's time to go home. I haven't been home in like since January.
Oh
We've
my.
been gone for almost 5 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, it seems
Oh,
longer.
yeah, it does seem
Seems like we've been
longer.
gone a long
Wow.
time.
Yeah. So I'd say 4 cycles of my housekeeper. That's how I look at it. Because I only have her come every other week. It's just the two of us. So we don't need that much. But yeah, so good to see you in the house. Maya is in the house.
And
Valerina, good to see you. Oh, that is your good side, Ray. Just in case you didn't know.
thank you. Sure.
Black women build wealth. Okay. Afia Beauty.
Afia.
Did I pronounce that right? Hey, Pinky. Good to
Hey,
see you.
Pinky.
Oh, solo nomad mom. Wow. Wow.
Hi, Afia.
Right? I see you. Curtis is
Mhm.
in the house from Ann Arbor. Burr. It was like between 70 and 77 here
Mm.
in Joburg. All right. We were out there. Then it got probably up to 80. It was hot for a while. Then it cooled back down.
Mhm.
It was lovely. Are you
Mhm.
cold in Michigan, baby? It's time to go. It's time to go.
It's time
Right,
to go.
Vicky? It's time to go. Hey, Jess. Helen is in the house. Professor,
Hey,
good to
Professor.
see you. James is in the house. Joyful one. All right, we are going to get started. Wait, is this a hello? I'm fairly new, she says. I, I'm assuming because joyful. It could be a male. I don't know. Started following your page last month. I'm a Black woman. Okay, there we go. Currently living in LA. I love your content. Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. If you're in LA, I know because we just came from there. Still dealing with our condo. It's expensive. LA is
Mm.
out of control. LA is out of control. But at least the gas is not $7 a gallon anymore. So that's good. Hey, Lori. Hey, R. Hogan,
Hey,
watching from Chicago.
Shaquan.
Shaquan, hey. What is the immigration cost into South Africa? Queen, what do you mean by that? Do you mean the fees to apply? And then on the American side, and then the South African side? Or are you saying like a golden visa type of situation? Or are you saying, is there an income level that you have to come in with? So we need more information, babe. Okay, so something that
I was
you're
waiting for
saying,
hi, Krishan.
Hey, Krishan.
Black
right?
Global in the house.
Right? You said something that about how you were living your life, and it made me think of Krishan because she always says, "Do not live life by default." And I was
Mhm.
living life by default too, just like, what am I doing? Why am I
Mhm.
just chasing? To what end? And burning myself out, stressing myself out, hair falling out, and everything else. right? It had to end. And so I love Krishan's statement, live life by design and not by default. And everyone watching, you do have the ability to live life by design and not by default. If you want to come join us in Portugal for the summertime, have a little vacay, maybe you are on sabbatical or you want to move, Blacks at Global and Our Black Utopia are doing a meetup during the Juneteenth week. So that's 16th and 17th. Y'all need to come out.
Please.
Yeah, we are going to have fun. We are going to have fun. All right. I will look for questions. But first, I want to get back to the family. Then we're going to get to the business because especially women, Black women, we, because we deal with so much in America, and I'm going to say Black American women, of course, as we're sitting on the continent. Black, and that fear is justified based upon what we have to go through in North America and specifically in the United States. But you moved here as a single mom and with 2 girls. And the first question that we always get is it safe? But I thought that they were kidnapping us and selling us into slavery, sex slaves, and blah, 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 whoop-de-whoop.
Well, I think that's happening very much and globally, but I think, America is and has been, I think since its inception, a place that used Black women and Black men as the seed capital, right? Our bodies, our labor, our wombs, all of that. And, I worked in the Chamber of Commerce for a couple years in my career. And that's a nonpartisan organization that essentially merges corporations with government, local government. And Atlanta at the time was attracting really big businesses, really big tech companies. And I started to understand what was happening in the country through the lens of these big, these economic development researchers, and human trafficking. Atlanta found itself as like a #1 hub, with the airport being the most traveled airport in the world, the interstate being, one of the most traveled in the world. So
wow.
When we talk about the abduction of Black bodies, I mean, every once in a while I'm on Instagram and I'm seeing somebody posting that their daughter has gone missing, I think it's a very interesting conversation, and like you said, a valid one, right? But I think we have to sit back and think, do you feel safe where you are right now?
And if so, why?
Yeah.
Right. And is it a false sense of security, or is it a true sense of security? And I think we don't even really know what that means unless we've traveled outside of the US. Because for those that travel outside of the US, as soon as you go back into the US, you know what we're talking about. It don't matter if you went to the Dominican Republic. Right. When you get on that plane to head back through customs, you're already on edge. And so, I've never felt unsafe. Dar es Salaam, Tanzania is one of the safest countries in the world, like the global index. South Africa does have, the stats that they report in South Africa are a bit concerning, I think, the way that they share them. And we can definitely talk about that in some of the challenges, but I'd say that even here in South Africa, I felt very safe. I live in a, very safe community. The way that the schools are very secure and safe, the way that you see kind of police standing ground and protecting people, it's just a different level of safety. And the last time that I traveled to the US, I literally was on edge every single day. Every single day. Never was outside of the house after sunset. Yeah.
See, and that's the thing. And I think because of the way the media handles things like that in America, right?
Oh, yeah.
They talk all day long about what's happening in Mexico. They talk all day long about what's happening in Central South America, right? Or different countries in Africa. But they don't talk about all the Black girls who have gone missing
Right.
in Boston. All of the Black girls, that it's like proof, and nobody's doing anything. All of the Black girls who've gone missing in Atlanta, right? And Atlanta, this is not the first time. Like this is a revolving thing. Even when I was younger, maybe even before you were born, Ashley, I remember all of these Black kids being kidnapped, going missing. I don't know, but it was. I
Yep,
want to
I remember
say
that
it was
story.
back in the 80s.
Oh, in Atlanta?
Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The
Right?
Black boys.
Yeah. The Black boys.
Yep.
So but you still get people asking, but is it safe? And I think I don't know what's going to change with that, but anybody who's watching, what you need to ask yourself is what is really going on, and you need to find sources of information that are not controlled by corporations who have an agenda.
Correct. Because it is
You know?
propaganda. Like you'll always hear the politicians when they talk about America. This is the best country in the world. It's the safest country in the world. The most, the best place for opportunity. It's the land of rich and milk and honey, right? Like they've kind of fed us this narrative for so long, even back to when we were pledging allegiance to the flag. So it's really just been ingrained in us, and we've just been told that that's the truth with so many things. And you're right, Halisi, like if you've been asking these questions and these questions aren't really making sense, the answers that you're getting are not really making sense, keep asking. And the likelihood that you'll get an answer that does make sense, it's probably going to make a lot of people upset. But the reality is, it's what do you want to do with your life and the time that you have on this earth? And is that asking for permission and for people to see the things the same way that you see them, or for you to be able to ask a question and get an answer and be pleased with the journey that it takes you on?
Yeah.
You
If you are looking for someone else to co-sign your plans, your life plans, you might be saddened.
Yeah.
Because misery loves company, y'all.
Yeah, folks don't want you,
right? They don't want you to. They don't want you. Some of it could be out of fear and the love fear. Like I love you. I'm afraid for you. But oftentimes it's like, whoa. What do you mean? This is, in my mind, here is your space. You are supposed to stay right here in this space, not physical space, but this space in my life. And now you're talking about doing something that was not in my plans for you. And I sound crazy, but this subconsciously is what goes on in our family and friends' minds when they are trying to dissuade us and scare us into staying put and being that frog in the boiling pot. Because I'm telling you, it's simmering right now in America. It's almost boiling. It's going to be boiling the second Tuesday in November, 2024. It's going to boil. But up until then, it's simmering and y'all don't even know it. It's time to go. Everyone who's talking about like 5 years, 7 years, and this and that and the other, and this pension and that, you're making assumptions. And if we'll see what happens in November.
Y'all my people. Y'all are my people, because these conversations, I'm gonna plan my trip 5 years from now. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna see what that passport is doing for you. Hopefully I'm wrong, right?
Work.
But hopefully, it's just like the writing is there. It's not the writing, the data, the media, just all of the things. It's a perfect storm. But the truth is, you can always go back. So just say you speed it up a bit, right? Speed it up.
Speed it up.
Try it out for 90 days, the max that you can. worst case scenario, you can always
go back,
take a flight right back. And I think I love the work that you all do, and just because it does take financial preparation. But the reality is, you think you're going to save in 5 years? No, guess what happens? Like, expenses go up, inflation goes up, your health gets worse. It is alarming the amount of people, Black women specifically, that I know that are my age, you know, maybe a couple years older, young 40s, getting sick, having
heart
strokes,
attacks,
heart attacks, cancer, you know, having to get hysterectomies in their 40s.
Yeah.
It's not normal. It's not normal. The country, the food, the stress, the chaos is making us sick. And we really owe that to ourselves to just take a step out of it. It doesn't have to be permanent and forever. If you don't like it, go home. But our people, we need a break. We need a break. We need some refuge, but we need to give ourselves that, and we need to stop trying to get other people to agree with what we need for ourselves.
Right.
So
yeah. It's time to start adulting, babies. Yeah. Time to start adulting. And I'm going to say, so we were talking to Brad, who knows you, when we told him we were interviewing you today. He's like, "Oh, I know Ashley." I'm like, "Okay, Mr. Man." So
I know you said I don't.
Yeah. So he is in a group that you guys are in for, I want to say immigrants, but African
Investor
business
Academy.
Investors. Is it the Investor
African
Academy?
Investor Academy.
Is he in her Investor
I don't
Academy?
know if he said he was in that.
Or did he come speak? I don't know.
Okay, maybe it's maybe it's GDC. There's like a global diaspora community.
That's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's a WhatsApp
not
group.
hers.
Like
right.
500.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I don't have a Brad in our community yet, but okay, got it.
Okay.
Hey, Brad.
Yeah.
I think he's looking to be involved in that too, though.
Oh,
from
awesome.
our conversation.
Oh, you were talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Because he's looking to do some things, and he likes what we're doing.
Yeah.
Both of us.
Yeah.
You and us.
So. And he's also from Atlanta, interestingly enough.
Okay.
But he's been here for quite a while. I would say about 15 years. He came, I would say about the time we were coming here, he was coming here, but he stayed and got married and had kids. And that's whose kids we were watching play basketball today and all of that. So yeah, we got a local experience. But you know, it's interesting to see how folks adapt and how folks change and become kind of numb about what is going on around them, right? And so I don't know how else to put it, because all I know is when we first started doing our research on Portugal, because it was Spain. I'm learning Spanish. This is where we're going. We've been there. We loved it. We thought we loved it. We loved it. And that's where we're going. And then we started doing research on Portugal mid-pandemic, like summer 2020. Yep. About summer 2020. And I remember it was after the DNC, because, I was involved in politics. So I had to do all of that stuff. And thank you, babe. And just since then, from 2020 to 2021, so many things changed.
Oh yeah.
Had we said, okay, let's do it now, we would have had 0% taxes for 10 years.
Yeah, just missed it.
Things change every day, y'all. So if you think you're gonna wait 5 years, you're gonna, in 2032, and you got your calendar out and you're crossing that off, I don't know. Right now, the passport still works.
Still works, even though what they're charging you $7.
They haven't implemented that yet in the EU.
They ain't far from it.
No, they and so that's just the first step. United States, Canada, some other countries, the EU has decided that they want an application fee. You don't get a visa on demand anymore. There's a process. It was supposed to start in 2024. They didn't have the infrastructure, the bureaucracy infrastructure in place. And so that's going to be maybe 2025, 2026, we'll see. But still, it's coming.
It's there. It's on the table.
It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, false sense of security in America. And the fact that it's killing us. So false sense of security, it's killing us. It's expensive. They treat our kids like they prepare them for a life of subservience. I'm going to put it that way. The public schools indoctrinate them to believe in white supremacy. And then this is what we get.
Yep.
Meantime, there's active shooter drills in schools, and this is what our kids have to deal with. So all of that trauma is being absorbed into their body, right. and I guarantee you, it's shortening their lives. We will see 80 years from now, but I won't be around. But it is shortening their lives. All right, let's get to some questions, and then we'll get to some business. And while I'm getting to some questions, so one of the questions that we always get every single time we have an unmarried person on the channel. How's the dating there? That's what people want to know. You don't have to talk about your personal dating. You can just talk anecdotally about what you see.
Yes, I will. And I'd rather share with the utopians, honestly.
Right?
It's interesting over on my channel, the comments. But so dating, I think, wherever you go, there you are. So I think women, we are more similar than we are different. Men, we're more similar than they are different. There are stark differences, I think, on the continent, specifically the confidence level, the innate confidence in African men versus how we show up in other spaces, because this is their land, this is where they're from, they speak their language, they practice their culture, however that looks. There's just this innate, ingrained confidence that African men have, in my experience. Now, I mean, you want to date, they're here. I will say Tanzania was a bit different because Tanzania is a lot more of a conservative culture, leans very religious. So if you are a Muslim, the culture is really defined by the religion. If you're a Christian, your cultural experience is very much defined by that religious experience. And a lot of the people got married very early, very young, early 20s. Divorce is not a cultural norm. So I knew that I would probably have a challenging experience for marriage there. But when I was in Tanzania, I wasn't really looking for that. But I dated. I definitely went on dates. I went on dates with some very beautiful African men from Kenya, from Tanzania, from South Africa, from Egypt. Like, it was lovely. I enjoyed myself. South Africa is cool because South Africa has people from all over the world. And a lot of South Africans, I find they're also very traveled. They may study abroad, but they come home. Like, South Africans are very patriotic. They love their country. It's a beautiful country. So there's so much to experience, from mountains to oceans to valleys. I mean, it's a beautiful place. So South Africans don't really tend to migrate. And actually the trend, the media has just been releasing a lot of talk about how South Africans are returning. They're going abroad, they're going to America, they're going to the UK, they're going to Australia, and they're like, nah, I'm good, I'm going back home. They're trading in those high paying jobs, which they're literally marketed to come to America for, and they're coming back to their home country. And so if you're looking for, what I love about South African men is just the intellectual experience. They're brilliant, the conversation, the dialogue, the awareness. it's just, you can really get into some fun intellectual banter. There's like an adoration for R&B culture, jazz music. So,
Hmm.
you know, I like going to these like R&B dance parties, and yeah, like you can meet people from everywhere. There is still very much a value of, you know, family,
Mm-hmm.
children, and women.
Mm-hmm.
So, not saying, you know, they're the Western influence of this, like, you know, separative thing of men and women. It's trying to creep its way over here, but ultimately, you know, I'm friends are at weddings every week. People are getting married. Marriage, family is a value that is ingrained in the culture here. And so, if that is what you desire,
Hmm.
then it's absolutely available to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've noticed a soft spokenness too, and because I'm older, just innate respect. You know,
Hmm.
you know, it's mom or it's auntie. It's, you know,
Yep.
it's ma'am. It's
Yep.
not get out of my way, old woman.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah, definitely respect.
Right?
Yeah. No.
um,
Even the way that, you know, they care for their elders. Like, I live in a community. There's a lot of older, you know, white people that are kind of, they're aging, and you see them with their nurses and their helpers. And my friends come to visit me. They're like, not in our culture. Like, we take care of our elders. Their grandparents, the family comes together to care for them in their home, or they come into someone's home. But the way, the respect of elders, like, it's not a game. It's like they don't play about that. So that just respect for elders is a reflection of the respect that they have for themselves, is a reflection of the confidence and the self-esteem that they exude. And these things are, you know, there are nuances between um, age, right? When people were born, the relation to
right.
apartheid and how their family was impacted by that, or even,
Yes.
you know, their tribal, like what province they're from, what tribe they're from.
Hmm.
There are some nuances there, but I'd say overall, um, brilliant people, kind people, family centered, uh, yeah, strong values. Um,
Hmm.
and it's very clear, and it's very refreshing, and it just feels like a warm hug.
Yeah,
At least
it
it's felt
is.
like that for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has for me too. It's interesting. So Frederica says my son was an exchange student to Cape Town when he was in 10th grade from Concord, North Carolina. He went to Spine Road School. It changed him forever, and I'm grateful he had that experience. And I know her son, and he is brilliant. And so if that experience has
Hmm.
anything to do with it, because you know when I met him, he was very young. I want to say like 22, maybe even younger, maybe like 20. And the confidence this young man had for a 20-year-old in a professional setting, or 21, 22,
Mm.
that's unusual. It's unusual. And this wasn't too long ago. This was, I don't know, 5 years ago, so or so. So yeah. Um, I want to ask you why you moved from Tanzania to South Africa. So I'll let you marinate on that for a sec. Rossini says how your eating
Okay.
habits with this fresh food offer change your quality of life. Oh, great info sharing. And English is not Rossini's first language. He speaks Portuguese. So has eating fresh food changed the way you feel, your quality of life, etc.?
Yes, absolutely. So I'd say in Tanzania, I noticed a really big difference because I ate a lot of fruit in Tanzania. The tropical fruit is just abundant and available everywhere. So I was drinking coconut water every day, you know, getting fresh mangoes and
Yum.
watermelon like every few days,
Hmm.
pineapple. the grapes, and I was just eating a lot of just fresh fruits and veggies. And then we used to have a guy that would come by every day selling fresh fish. And my house was like 15 minutes from the ocean, right? So I was just, I aged backwards. I was lean, my skin was glowing and beautiful. A little difference is moving to South Africa because they have everything here. Like there's a level of manufacturing and processing that's happening in South Africa, and the food is good. Like they eat a lot of meat here. So lamb chops
Right.
everywhere,
Yes.
beef
Yes.
everywhere, but everything is available. Italian, Indian, Brazilian, Portuguese, African, and Ghanaian, so South African, Nigerian. I mean, it's just Ethiopian. I also have a helper who lives with us, and she cooks 3 meals a day for me. And since she's been working with us, I've put on a couple kgs because she makes lasagna and she makes macaroni and cheese and she makes pancakes and all of. So the answer is my quality of life. I mean, I just, I stopped eating a lot of processed food. Tanzania, it wasn't available, and if it was available, it was expensive or it was expired. So they were getting a lot of not so great things there, and so we just didn't buy processed food. I took my children off cereal. We would do certain things every once in a while, but for the most part, I was eating everything super fresh. And I mean, I was super healthy. I ended up having a surgery for like a small issue, but the way that I healed after that surgery, my surgeon himself, he was like, yo, I don't know what you're doing or what you're taking, but your healing is impeccable. And what we do know is when we eat better fresh fruits and vegetables, we heal ourselves from the inside out. So that I have brought into my lifestyle here. But because I live in the city, the proper city, I eat everything and I eat a lot of it. So it's just, food is good here. It tastes good. It's anything and everything that you want is available to you, and it's affordable. Like when I go out to eat, you see families eating, and you don't have to be a high income earner to be able to have a nice dinner with your family. It hasn't, inflation is not hit the people of South Africa that so hard that they're unable to enjoy a nice meal out at a restaurant. It is available for everyone to experience for the most part. So
yeah, well, we did see that when we've eaten out too much.
And had some great meals.
Yeah, we've had some great meals. I have to say, I didn't have anything that I haven't liked actually since I've been here.
It's really hard. It's really hard to get a bad meal.
Right, Ashley, you are the parent I wish I had, but I tried to be. Thank you. And thank you, Frederica. I don't know what she's talking about. She raised two amazing people that I know. Okay, and I don't know if she has any more kids, but the two that I know are amazing. So she's so funny. Have you traveled to Grenada? If so, your thoughts on this as a retirement destination. My wife traveled there in 1970 in comparison to Madrid to Grenada, spent time in Madrid. Hey, Gerald, we're talking about South Africa today. We are definitely talking about South Africa today. I see you have another question about Portugal. I'm going to save that till the end, sweetheart, because so I'm going to hide that right now. Because I know people are going to have questions about South Africa and Southern Africa. But we will give you a quick something or other on Portugal because that's where we live. Can you speak to your personal experience on being American Black there in Africa? Have you experienced being othered by anyone in a good or bad way? We don't hear you, Ash. Let's see what happened.
Hold on now. Can you hear me?
There you go.
Yep.
Perfect. I love this question. I love when people ask it because it's so, I love it. Black Americans have a huge advantage, I'd say, and privilege when they come to South Africa. One, because our culture and the way that it's been distributed across the world, South Africa is a place that picked it up. They've been watching American content since the 80s. And I'm not sure if that was like a great idea or bad idea, who knows, but I'd say fast forward
Both.
to right?
Both.
Fast forward to today, when we're out and about and people hear our accents, they're genuinely just curious, right? And they're interested and they want to know more. And so I'd say that this privilege comes with a huge responsibility, right? Because it's not something that we're used to in our country, in our home country. It's like not even a thing. Like Black privilege is like a word that, or a pair of words that we just never really hear. But essentially, you are seen as someone who has come through a lot. Like you're seen as resilient, you're seen as aspirational, you're seen as bringing a level of knowledge and experience that the people were really interested in understanding and learning more about. And so I'd say that it is essentially just been a really beautiful experience for me. Some people will ask, right? So there is a population of the people in South Africa that are called colored, and they, there is discourse around whether or not these people were the indigenous Khoisan people, or they were a mixture of the Dutch settlers and the African people. I think that there may be a combination of the two. Most people know of the Grammy Award winning artist Tyla having some conflict with Americans about her saying, "I'm a colored South African." And there is a community of colored people. They speak Afrikaans. They have they're very family oriented, very strong culture dynamic. And I've had people ask me that, like, "Oh, are you colored?" or whatever. But I've never felt disrespected. I've never felt, put down or seen as marginalized, right? Or, "Oh, that's silly African or American," excuse me. It's been a beautiful experience. And, for the men, going back to the dating, it's been awesome. But I do say that it comes with a level of responsibility. I've learned I've adopted a huge amount of empathy so that I can also be understanding, because I want to learn and I have a desire to learn from the people of South Africa as much as they're just curious about me. So no bad experience, honestly. I'd say the worst experience was maybe a white person treating me better than they may treat another African, because they see me as an American Black person, So I'd say that is probably the worst experience, but it was because of my empathy for my brothers and sisters, not because of the way that they necessarily treated me.
Right.
Yeah. I hope that answered your question, Siobhan.
It did. It definitely did. And we've seen that in Portugal as well, of getting American privilege, right? We're American before we're Black. And, obviously Portugal is not the same as being on the continent. But remember, folks, that South Africa was colonized, right? First by the Brits, then the Dutch, then the Brits. So, if you go back. But the folks who did the apartheid, that was the Dutch, or who were the derivatives or ancestors of the Dutch. And so just to get on the colored thing, because I don't want anybody up in our comments talking any mess. Everyone's culture is different. And Rick and I, when I came here originally, I came here through university on a fellowship. So I had to study the history of South Africa. Color does not have the same connotation here in South Africa as it does in America. No. So just get that out of your mind. It is a culture. You cannot tell somebody who's colored just by the way they look. They can be as brown as Rick, or they can be as fair as Ashley, or anybody in between. It usually means you grew up speaking Afrikaans, is my understanding. So, and then Indians are thrown into that, and anybody else who is non-white, but not Black. And that's a whole other weird thing.
Yeah.
Because we know colored people who look, who look. We would say up and down. You're not biracial. You're not triracial. You are 100%. You're like 80% African, right? And they will still call themselves colored. And it's not necessarily because they don't want to be looked at as Black. Although you did back in the day get more privileges as a colored person, it is because it is their culture and they're proud of it. Yep. And it's as simple as that. And so we need to respect that.
Yep.
So
well said.
Yeah. I had to learn. I had to open my mind. I said, and I told them, when we were here back in 2008, I was like, if you come to America, you're Black, right? Not the Indian ones. But, okay, we just answered that. But the folks who look like us, I told them, they're like, well, so Will Smith and Jada are colored. No, babies, they're not. They're not. That's not how we do things in America. Neurologist in Lisbon. Gerald, baby, I'm not answering all these questions. You're going to have to book a call. I don't know. You're going to have to book a call.
No, that's right.
I did all this research on Africa. You hear asking me about booking a plane ticket for April 15th, May 15th for an apartment in Lisbon. Bucket list, baby. We're not talking about Portugal today. We are not talking. At the end, to prepare financially. Okay, we're going to ask that. So while I'm going through and finding the rest of these questions, what was the catalyst that moved you from Tanzania to South Africa? Because you'd been in Tanzania. I've been following you ever. So Ashley and I, part of the Exodus Summit, we took a class / challenge / webinar type thing together back in early 2022. I can't remember. I took them both back to back, so I can't remember which one. But I remember back then you were in Atlanta, about to heading back immediately after that to Tanzania.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's okay. So you were there for almost 2 years.
Yeah, I was, and I loved Tanzania, and it was beautiful. And I was there essentially just to love on myself. And that's exactly what I got to do. And I got to travel. I got to, get on the foothills of the Kilimanjaro, Mount Kilimanjaro, swim in the Indian Ocean, spend time in Zanzibar. I mean, just do all of the things. I was literally pursuing joy relentlessly in Tanzania. But I knew at some point I would have to return back to work. Going back to financial security investing, I invested in a policy, short-term disability policy at 30. I was not really at the height of my career, but I invested in a policy that paid 60% of my income. At the time, I was making $60,000. That 60% allowed me to live beautifully well for a year, save enough actually to be on a sabbatical for 2 years. Wow. And so that investment in myself literally, kind of changed my life. But I knew at some point I'm going to have to go back to work. During that time, I took a trip to South Africa about 10 months in. And when I arrived to Johannesburg, I was like, this is Africa. Like, I can do this. I can do this. Like, I don't have to go back to the US. And while I was here, I just met people. People were really friendly. I talked about what I was good at, and people wanted to help me. So I established a business. I opened a bank account, and then I just kind of created these little bits and momentums and tried to figure it out. Okay, how can I get to South Africa? I knew that South Africa was essentially the launch pad to the continent of Africa. So all of the blue chip businesses are here. Blue chip is typically like the really high performing, well-to-do businesses that are also on the stock exchange. So you've got, you know, all of them. The NBA is here, you know, YouTube, Spotify, Google, Uber, Ernst and Young, all the big four accounting firms, the big banks.
Yeah, like
they
KPMG. KPMG, as soon as I got off the plane, I'm like, okay, you know.
Yes, they are here. So those big corporations are here. And I said, okay, well, I bring my background, my professional background. You know, I'm desirable because I've got education, I've got strong skills. And so I just knew that this was a place where I could really cultivate community. And it felt like people were supportive of, you know, what I wanted to do professionally. It was still on the continent of Africa. I also had the infrastructure and amenities that I was missing a bit in Dar es Salaam. And the men looked great. So
and then there's that part.
I could do all of that.
And then there's that part.
Great decision. It was a great decision for myself and my family. And
that would had to have been a big change. And when we came back in 2008, I called South Africa Africa Light, because there were elements that reminded me of a westernized situation. And even then, you know, just 15, 18 years after apartheid, you know, I could already see what the possibilities are. We are definitely going to get to the Tale of Two Cities, y'all, and the things that South Africa is still having the challenges that still exist, because we don't want you to think that it's all wine and roses. Although the Stellenbosch wine is very good.
I was going to say, although the wine is some of the best in the world.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it's affordable.
Exactly. Okay, so Black Women Build Wealth asks, as a single mother, how did you prepare financially for the move, and what were your sources of income? So we've talked a little bit about that, but if you want to elaborate.
Yeah, so at the top of my career, I was earning about a little over 100K a year. I was also an investor in startups, and I would consult on the side. So I was bringing in maybe about 125 to 150,000 the last maybe 3 years of my career. I was also in a relationship, so I was dual income household, and I was able to save 30% of my income. I was contributing heavily to my insurance, you know, portfolio and whole life insurance, and pushing all my money, you know, maxing out my 401k. But I was an aggressive saver. And while I did also like nice things, I was in a dual income household that allowed me to really save. And I enjoyed that, like paying myself first 20% at minimum, and then whatever I didn't need would go into my account. All of my tax refunds always went into, you know, money market account or something, savings. I had really poor financial habits, like many of us did growing up. And I got my PhD in it in 2008 when the market crashed and my houses were upside down. That's when I learned that, oh, okay, I need to get some skills around this financial literacy. So I started, you know, really aggressively at about 30 years old, being really intentional about my finances. And so when I was ready to make my move, I had almost a 6-figure cushion of just savings there, as well as my disability policy that was paying 60% of my $60,000 income. So I knew that I could live off of that. I mean, that was like bringing me about $3,000 a month. I lived very well, and I was still able to save money in Tanzania. And yeah, I mean, I also knew, okay, worst case scenario, how long can I live off of this money if I have to, if I never work again? And that's the reality, is like, even when people think when you go on sabbatical, you're like just quitting or you're retiring, and that's cool. I've essentially retired from corporate America, but I still work, but I work with intention. And like, I work based on the lifestyle that I want to have, which includes being a full-time mom, and working part-time. So I am present with my girls, and yeah, those were the sources of my income.
Yeah. Your girls are so fortunate. They'll realize it if they don't already. They
Thank
are
you.
so, so fortunate. Okay, next question. And then we will get to the business and the dirty stuff. Okay, I'm not answering that question right now. How many languages?
Have I mastered? Okay, so I went to high school in Miami. So I learned Spanish. I started Spanish in high school and kind of took it through and used to be really fluent. I used to work in sales. So if I get back in a Spanish environment, I can pretty much carry myself in speaking Spanish. I wouldn't say I've mastered Swahili, but I will say that when I do go back and I greet people and I speak to people and I ask questions, they think I'm Tanzanian. So maybe that's mastery. Um, but I can speak conversational Swahili. And I'm learning South African languages. However, I am not conversational. I can greet people in about 2 different languages here. So I'd say I'm like a good, I'm pretty good in about 3 languages, and I'm learning, actively learning 2 more.
Yeah, and mastery, CK, is, it's going to be difficult as an adult to master a language, especially many different languages. To communicate should be the goal, right?
Yeah.
Let's communicate. I might be a little grammatically incorrect here or there, and this and that and the other, but do you understand the words coming out of my mouth? Right? And if the answer is yes, then I'm successful. Like, I don't care if I sound like a 2-year-old. Do you understand me? Can we communicate? Can we get done what we need to get done? Or even build a relationship? Like, that to me should be the goal as opposed to mastery. Mastery will keep you stuck. And I'm picking on that word, and you might not have even meant it that way, but this is for other people who might be listening who get stuck in the perfectionism. They don't want to talk until they're perfect. They don't want to practice until they're perfect. They don't want to go out there and try until they're perfect. So have you heard my name before then in Tanzania?
No, Halisi.
Interesting. So Halisi means genuine or truth in Swahili. Yeah. So back during the civil rights movement, my whole generation got Swahili names.
Yes, my
dad was
sister's
learning
name was
Swahili.
my sister's name was in Swahili. Yes, Imani.
Oh, Imani. And my sister is
Mhm.
Amani.
Mm.
Yes.
But
Yes, yes,
Halisi
yes.
definitely sounds. I'm like, oh, that's definitely Swahili. But yeah, I never heard that word.
Yeah. So there's a group called Halisi Nation or something like that. I think they're out of Kenya. And then there was an accounting firm down here or down in Cape Town that was called Halisi because it's exact, genuine truth. So accounting, I get it. What they were trying to do with that. So yeah, when Gmail came out, I couldn't even get Halisi at gmail.com. It was taken.
Oh wow.
It was
Yeah.
taken. So, is bread a large part of the African meals?
Yes, actually. Should I elaborate?
Sure.
Because it is. No, I mean it is flour. It's a really good, it's a cheap ingredient. So it does find its way in many of the African meals. I think Tanzania, there was just a beautiful bread called chapati. You could eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with some tea. Here it is steamed bread, which they might call dumpling or dumelo or something like that. And then if it's just sliced bread, absolutely, it's an affordable part. An affordable dish. So yeah, you will find it in many meals.
This is a good question. Hey, Greta. I think I
Yes,
know
they
the
do.
answer.
They do. Healthcare is free for anyone and everyone in South Africa. Long lines. If you do go to the government hospitals, you got to be there early in the morning. The largest hospital on the continent is here in South Africa. At the government hospital is where I think the first brain surgery happened here on the continent of Africa. I hope that's a right fact, because if not, they're going to come for me in the comments. But yes, South Africa has true universal healthcare, but also if you do decide to go private, it is also very affordable as well.
Yeah. And even the folks that I know, they have private Greta, just like we do in Portugal, because it's one thing when you know it's there, but if it's just the flu, you don't want to deal with that. You don't want to deal with all of that. If it's something serious, like in Portugal, they're going to send you to the public, but because it's life or death at that point, right? But for expediency, when it's just the flu or something like that, just put in your budget, baby, that you're gonna go private, and then have that as a backup.
Yep.
How do you find the whites there?
Heart surgery. Someone in the comments. Heart, not brain. Yes.
Heart
surgery.
I was going to say, I think it was heart surgery.
Yes. Thank you for correcting me, my South African. How do I find the whites? Well, they are aware of their place in Johannesburg. I think it's a very different experience in Johannesburg than it is in Cape Town.
Yep.
Cape Town is run politically by
the DA.
The DA. What does it stand for? Because I always forget.
Democratic Alliance. Yeah.
Right. So, but when I hear it, I think of the DA, like Popo, 5-0. So same thing, essentially, same energy. But it's a different experience in Cape Town. They're kind of the majority in Cape Town. And it can be a bit off-putting for some, but it's still Africa. So when I go there, I still have that same, like, I'm here, this Africa, we are here. But I do think that they have a different energy in Cape Town. In Johannesburg, they are, they're meek, I'd say. That's the best word to use.
Compared to America.
Compared to America, it's totally different.
Yeah. And I would have to agree. It's interesting because Stephanie was saying yesterday, she's like, I don't know what happened between 2017 and today, but these white folks down here in Cape Town have lost their mind. And when I was here back in 2017, I'm paraphrasing. They were mellow and they weren't trying to do the white supremacy privilege thing, she said, and she could have been dealing with tourists, for all we know. And just because they have an accent, sometimes I can't tell the difference between a British accent, a South African accent. Australian is pretty obvious. But in any event, but I did notice a difference today. Again, I told you guys we were out there in community and at the basketball tournament. And yes, the majority of the players were Black. But there were white players on just about every single team, and white parents hugging the Black parents when they scored, and parents were hugging parents regardless. I was watching because I'm still American, so I was watching and I wanted to see what the vibe was, y'all. And I'd have to agree with Ashley. I won't be as bold to say it, they're meek, but it's definitely a different energy and more in line with how life should be. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and I think. Yeah, there's no hesitancy in being like, yeah, these white people act up, like you don't have to mute yourself if that is a situation that is happening, but it's just a different lens. And I think once you kind of come out of that experience in the US, you just realize how indoctrinated you have been with race. So sometimes I recognize that a lot of my stuff is my stuff. So sometimes what I'm experiencing isn't actually them, it's just my stuff. Right. And sometimes we have to be willing to, kind of humble ourselves and recognize, like, that's a part of some of the damage that we experience in America, that everything is not always racial.
Right.
It's not always racial. So there are some things that are, not dismissing it completely, but it's not always the first or second or third thing that you're dealing with.
Yeah, well said. Karen Louise. For Ashley, I remember you in your past YouTube channel. You're building a solid community in Tanzania. Have you built a solid community base who supports you there in South Africa? What's it been like?
Yeah, I have. I feel like I have a beautiful community of, wives, mothers, friends that are South African. I think I have a great community of, Black Americans here, wives, families, mothers. I do feel a lot more at home here in South Africa and Johannesburg than I felt in Tanzania. I love Tanzania, but I spent a lot of time in restoration mode in Tanzania, like with myself and, at the beach and with my girls. Like, I did have a decent community of women, and a lot were like Black British community. But here I have really made serious friendships and like familial relationships with people where I've spent time at their home, I've spent time on their family farm. Like, yeah, it's just been a different experience with the South African people here that makes me really feel like I've got some anchor, some roots. Yeah.
I could see that. And I could feel it today. I could feel it. It's a vibe. It's a vibe. It's a vibe. It's a vibe, but I remember my South African history color is mixed race. So no pinky. No. It's not necessarily. It can be. And again, Indians were put in. Not only did I have to read and get tested on the history because it was my master's program, but also I just went to the Apartheid Museum just a couple of days ago, and got reminded of all of the history. And so it really, you do really have to look at it as a culture more than a look. And how they did it during apartheid is basically anyone who was not Black and not white got labeled colored, as well as, yes, again, some of the mixed race. But what I know is anyone who looks any kind of way, who grew up speaking Afrikaans, considers themselves colored. That has been my experience. And that is beyond the textbooks. This is what's happening on the ground.
Right.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room. Johannesburg has a vibe. There's a vibe. We will show y'all. It's a very modern city. You have all of the amenities that you would expect. Ubers come fast, unlike Mexico.
That's still something they cancel.
They cancel you in a minute. I love the Mexican people, but them Uber rides, boy, you better start an hour in advance trying to get your Uber, depending upon where you're at. And so, yes, but it is the tale of two cities. And let me tell y'all, there's two reasons why I could not do South Africa, regardless of where it was located on the globe. And I say that to say, because the first thing that we said last week is it's just too far from everything else for what we are doing and for our lifestyle, especially with my parents and, and having to go back and forth and deal with them. But so we ain't know. And Phyllis, if you're still watching, I love you. I should have asked you about Johannesburg, not Cape Town. I knew Cape Town. I didn't know Johannesburg. So we ended up staying downtown. And my stepsister said, "Oh, why are you down there? You should have stayed in Sandton." I'm sorry, I thought you knew. I think she thought her mom told me. That's what I think.
I
And
thought the
then
same thing.
yeah, and then Ashley was being a lot more nice about it. Excuse me. And she's like, "Oh, okay, well, y'all, this is what is in my opinion, is unacceptable." And I was pissed the f off. So I'm downtown. We are downtown, and what is probably considered the old downtown, the original downtown, or whatever buildings. A lot of them look to be built in the 70s and 80s and things like that, and they're empty. Not only that, they're like, I think they are not. Oh, here we go, load shedding. Let's see if we get stuck. Come back on, babies. Come back on.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Come back on. Come back on. I don't know. Anyway, we'll just.
There you
Still
go.
look good. Yeah.
There we go. Now, in the place that we were staying downtown, what happened is what we were told was going to happen. But what just happened here? Yeah. But what happened was everything went out. Everything. He promised me internet, lights, and hot water during load shedding. So load shedding, y'all, here in South Africa is their attempt to not overtax their electrical grid, because it is overtaxed, because they haven't been investing properly, because they have been saving contracts for the buddies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is not based upon Halisi. This is not based upon anecdotes, but based upon a 2-year study that was done by Harvard University. And you can say, oh, Harvard, they're racist. They're blah, blah, blah. Look, y'all, they're trying to make money. All right. They're trying to figure out what happened with South Africa. When we were here in 2008, it was 8 rand to the dollar. When I was here, it was 8 rand to the dollar. And we were still only 15 years away from apartheid, right? Yeah, something like that. Now here we are 30 years later, pretty much, and it's 18 rand to the dollar. The dollar ain't that much stronger. It's getting weaker in comparison to the euro. So what's going on? What I saw was, in my opinion, 100% zero investment in downtown. And they've got a township-looking housing development right outside of it. And when I say right outside, like walking distance, they come in to do trading, to set up little booths and things like that and sell things. That's all great. But they're doing that with sidewalks that don't exist in downtown, because they've started repairing something at some point, but it's still just a big gaping hole. And I don't mean just a hole like right here. I mean the whole sidewalk, like 30 feet of sidewalk. It's a hole. And so you're trying to walk. So then you get in the street. But there might as well have been tuk-tuks. There are all these like collectivo type vans. And so we're trying to walk between the parked cars and the vans and this is coming from the grocery store. It is crazy, chaos, nonsense, dirty. I saw people lifting up the water thing from the sidewalk and washing themselves with the water that was underground from the gutter or wherever that water's coming from. Mm-hmm. This is the other Johannesburg. Mm-hmm. And then we drove across the railroad tracks, y'all. And it was like, and the sun was shining, and the glass was gleaming, and the roads were fine, and the sidewalks were beautiful. And it's like they had one man to take care of every blade of grass and the islands in between. Everything was like, what happened? So I say that to say South Africa has, as of 2019, the worst inequality between the have and the have-nots on the planet. And I should say for those countries who are reporting, who allow these entities to get their data, right? South Africa did allow them to get their data. Now, there might be other countries that are worse, but we don't have access to their data. But the Gini coefficient, if you don't know what that is, Google it. It is a score that measures the inequality, the economic and income inequality of a country. So the higher the number, the worse the inequality. South Africa, as of 2019, because they don't have more recent data yet, maybe they're not reporting anymore. Maybe it's gotten worse. I don't know, because there is data for 2022 for most of the other countries. But in 2019, so we compare apples to apples, South Africa was 63. Portugal was a 33. United States, 42. So United States ain't doing that well, y'all. But South Africa, there is, and you can see it. You can see this huge gap between the have and the have-nots. I don't know. Yeah, I do know. I do know some of the things that they could do to alleviate and to lessen that gap. But this is one of the realities. And it's interesting because, Ashley, when we were talking last night at dinner with my stepsister and her friends, family, actually, they're like, yeah, I haven't been to that part of town in like 15 years. These people, like Jen is born and raised here, right? She's born and raised in South Africa. And so, yeah, I haven't been over there in like 15 years. I get it. I wouldn't go either. But something's got to be done, because there's babies begging, Bema, please, 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 I'm just so hungry. Can I get some food? And that's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I was actually down there yesterday with my partner, and we were going to get our devices repaired by a South African engineer who has an office down there. And so I think there was a time where in the US, a lot of downtowns were dying, right? And companies were going into these office parks outside. Now, when downtown CBD was developed in the 50s and 60s, they were big mining companies, Europeans coming, and they were mining and they were creating these central hubs. And, post-apartheid, a lot of people kind of fled that area and separated that area. Now, South Africans will tell you that these buildings essentially are inhabited, and most of these areas are inhabited by people that are from outside of South Africa, coming from neighboring countries like Zimbabwe, Mozambique, the DRC, and they kind of congregate in these areas because there's infrastructure and there's just shelter. And they can go and they can trade, and they, even essentially can do jobs that maybe native South Africans are not doing, right? So a little similar to the conversation that we hear in the US, where they kind of pit these ethnic groups against each other based on socioeconomic issues. It is a very dynamic conversation, one that I am still learning and understanding. I was actually downtown. I volunteer at a center doing research for a center at Wits University. And I was actually downtown that day where there was a gas pipe explosion. So I think that is the hole in the ground that you saw. And when you talk about infrastructure maintenance, there is this emotional correlation to the fact that the infrastructure was developed by the colonizers and who should maintain it, and whether it should be maintained or it should be destroyed. And there's it's not a conversation as much as it is just an emotional kind of issue. There's a lot of challenges. There are a lot of challenges socioeconomically here in South Africa as a young country, as a young democracy, and one of the most promising countries on the continent, where they're constantly seeing influx of immigrants and people from all over the world coming to this country to seek a better life. And I think that the infrastructure and the policy hasn't caught up with the needs of the people. And essentially, this issue with corruption, this issue really stems from a trauma of lack and what the people in power, what they experience as children and their family experience as children, and the healing that has to happen internally is essentially it's bleeding on the other people, because as long as I'm in power, I have access to money, and I don't know how long I'm going to have that access and power. So I must retain it as long as possible. And it's absolutely an issue. However, with the continent and every country kind of having these really young populations of people that are willing to speak out, willing to speak against it, willing to challenge and speak truth to power, my confidence is in the South African youth and the South African people that they are going to figure it out. They are going to make a change. Is there a long road to it? I think absolutely. There's a road ahead. But I also love kind of seeing this process happen and this process take place. In a way that, I don't know, it just feels like an uprising of a people that are willing to do it and interested in doing it, that once they do get that momentum and like get that power and that support and the force behind them, like sky is the limit. I think the beauty that we see in South Africa is the proof point that this entire continent is capable of achieving. And the reality is that the youth have an incredible opportunity of remembering their power and pushing forward and just like getting to it, like bulldozing through. And I think that is one of the most exciting things that I get to see in the youth, the South African youth, that they are committed to this country. Like they're seeing what's happening in the West. Before, people were leaving this country to go to other countries, but now people are coming here, and they are not playing about their country. They are not playing about it. And it's a beautiful thing to experience. And it's a process though, for sure.
They're going to need to hold their folks' feet to the fire. They're going to need to hold their feet to the fire. And, I know, governing is hard, and governing when you have been oppressed is even harder. It's harder for the oppressed not to imitate the oppressor. And that too is a process. But in talking, so we got to have dinner with two of the young people that I taught with back in 2008, and hear them talk about the politics. They're so pissed off. They're so angry with certain. I'm not going to name any of the political parties, because I don't know enough to speak on it. I'm just telling you how they feel. But at certain parties, and they've decided they're not voting for that party or this party or that party, and they're tired of giving chances. They're just tired of giving chances. So they're serious. They're serious, and there's so much opportunity for South Africa to lead this continent. They should take, to me, it's part of reparations, right? Like they should take all of the stuff that the white immigrants dropped off, basically, because they got once they realized this is not sustainable. We can't keep having the majority be subservient. Once they realized that, there was an infrastructure here that a lot of the other countries didn't have, and they should have picked up that ball and ran with it. And I know that there was a lot of work to do, and there's a lot of internal work to do. It's hard when basically you've had somebody in your home beating your butt for 40, 50 years in your house.
Yeah. And now you got to look at them.
Right. And now you have to look at them still and break bread from time to time and be civil and humane. I can't imagine, we have our own trauma, but we weren't in our own home. We were stolen, right? So we didn't have any claim on the land. We don't have any claim on the culture. Like I always say, African Americans are people without a country. We are people without a home. But here in South Africa, they do have a home. It's interesting that you were talking about immigrants from neighboring countries coming in, and that could be the majority of the folks that I was seeing out there on those streets. I don't recognize the accent, so I wouldn't have been able to tell from, the interactions. But I do remember when we were here before. So he wouldn't even let me go out during the day, y'all, downtown, in the day by myself. I'm from South Central LA. Come on. You don't know. I said, well, I ain't gonna be held hostage, so I guess we move in, and we'll just have to eat the cost. But he did give us a refund. Thank God, he gave us a refund, so we didn't have to eat anything. Yeah. But
one thing that I have seen, though, South Africans, they know how to organize. So the way that the politics works here is it's a party system. You do not vote in a president. You vote in a party. And unlike the US, where it's just Democrat, Republican, and then this kind of independent, South Africa is a multi-party democracy. And there are several of them, dozens of them. And, they know how to organize. Like, all right, this is our mission. This is our vision. Let's get together. And they're, one of the political parties that's kind of in the running is one of the fastest growing political parties in the history of South Africa. So, the anger that the youth are feeling, they're putting it into action and they're organizing. And that is one thing that I have seen them do, that we just haven't been able to do as African Americans, like, in all of our creativity and all of our resilience, our ability to organize, and not saying it's perfect, right? Because they definitely have their challenges, right? But their ability to organize and be in a united front, and push some things and create energy behind them has been a really, really like interesting thing to watch. As you guys experience motion. Yeah, it is.
That was weird.
So, and this is the first time it's happened that close together, and because that shouldn't have been it coming back. The
first one was a mistake.
Who knows? So they have more of a parliamentary government here, and I actually like that. If we had more of a parliamentary government when it comes to the House and the Senate, where for House and Senate, you just vote for a party, right? The only thing about that is the party politics in the good old boys club, and then who gets to have those positions. But there's something to be said for every voice that got a certain amount of votes, 10% or whatever, having a seat at the table.
Yep. And they sit together. They don't sit separately.
Right. Then you have to compromise, right? And you have to listen to what the other person is saying, lest they get more control the next time. This time they're 10%. Next time it could be 20%. The next time it could be 40%. So you need to work together. So especially if you want to maintain control. And one of the things that I was going to say is when we were back here in 2008, they were having a really, really big issue with folks coming from over the border. And I think it was from Zimbabwe. And there was a lot of xenophobia going on, stonings going on, South Africans. And what my understanding is that it was economic, that they, you're taking our jobs, just like we do in America. You're taking our jobs. And so we almost, our school canceled. And I remember them saying, I said, well, I'm still going because I booked a ticket. If I'm going to Africa, my son's going, my husband's going, we all going. Like, I'm not going to just take off with the other students, this is Africa. No, we going. So, so the school canceled, but we still came. And I remember calling my uncle who was living in Johannesburg at the time. And I said, how bad is it? Should I come? He's like, baby, we from LA. Come on. You'll be fine.
Right.
You'll be fine. and so we came and it was great. And now we have, friends that we have known since then. And it has been wonderful. It has been wonderful. Okay. We are coming close to time, y'all. It is midnight here, y'all. So I'm going to go through these
Wow, we've
questions
been
very, very
talking.
quickly. We have been talking, and we still got to get to your business. So, can you still invest in American stock market from South Africa?
Yes, as long as you keep your American bank accounts.
Yes. Keep your American bank accounts until it's not wise to. Just and you'll know when. You'll know when to just get your money out.
Yep.
All right. Does South Africa offer, okay, here we go with the visas, a retirement residency visa, I'm thinking is what Diane means.
Yes.
If so, would you start the process in your home country or South Africa?
In your home country or whatever country you have permanent residency in, you can start the process of a retirement residency visa. Go to the website. I am not an immigration consultant or expert, but go to the website, Google South African retirement residency or retirement visa. Make sure you go to the website, the government website, and not like this, there's going to be a lot that pop up with Google ads,
right?
And get the full information from
Make
the
sure
website.
You're not because a lot of firms will pop up who will help you do the thing, right? They'll pop up too. So I think it should say something like .za or something. I don't know. You'll know when it's a government website. CK, are you describing projects? Abject poverty sounds like Mega South. How did distribution of wealth of property occur? How is it not apartheid? This is not apartheid still. CK, do you really know what apartheid is? So vast economic and income inequality is unsustainable and horrible. And I don't want to sound like preachy or anything, but apartheid is a government system whereby written into law are certain things to make sure that you never can leave your station in life. It tells you where you have to understand that the indigenous people of this land had to carry around a book, a passport book, basically. They were not true citizens of their own country. That's apartheid. All right. Apartheid was going into townships because you're looking for one bad guy and just killing indiscriminately, just doing whatever the heck you want to do because you can get away with it. That's apartheid. What we're looking at now is a failure of the government to adjust their policies based on changing situations. That happens in every single country. Some fix it more quickly and some more slowly and some never fix it. But there's a big difference between failed policy when you're trying to do the right thing and you fail, and creating laws to make sure that people never, ever, ever get a chance to live a real life. Okay, that's apartheid. And it's especially heinous because it's in your own home. So that's what that is. And I want you to understand this, not from a situation where we're not poverty pimps. We don't want to compare the trauma and the drama of the United States to the trauma and the drama of apartheid. That's not what it's about. But I really want you to understand that it is a very legal system that gives the state the right to be abusive. There are no laws on the books in the United States, besides the Patriot Act, if you ask me, that gives the government the right to be as abusive. They still do. They still abuse, but they don't have the right to do it. They just get away with it, but there's no laws on the books. You see what I'm saying? So I don't want to be cavalier about it. Yes, what's happening now is still not great. What's happening in America is still not great. But we have to give apartheid the respect of the evilness that it was. There it is. That's it. That's what I wanted to say. It was insidiously evil. And I don't want to lessen that by comparing it to MAGA or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because it is not anything the same. And there's remnants, right? So there are remnants of apartheid that still exist, and people were pulled from their homelands. But I'm actually doing a tour with a great friend of mine turned family who was also a creator on YouTube. She invited me and my family to spend Christmas with her in her village in KZN. And they were actually able to change their village from a colonial name of Pomeroy to Solomon Linda. Solomon Linda was the original creator of The Lion Sleeps Tonight. And he was a man that for years never got credit, physical or literal credit, for his work in that song. And they recently changed the town name to Solomon Linda in her village. And so we're going to do a tour of that village. Why? Because, and I know someone in the comments was saying, why aren't we uplifting? The reality is we're sharing the history. We're sharing a major part of the history, because you cannot come to a new country without trying to understand the culture and the history. There's a level of empathy that is required, because when you see things that are different or they seem concerning or critical, if you lack a level of awareness and empathy, you will come off as ignorant, and you will frustrate yourself trying to understand why things don't look the way you think that they should look. So it's so important that we don't really bypass these things. We talk about the dating, we talk about the exchange rate, we talk about the cost of living, but we also have to talk about the hard things, because when you come to these countries, you are going to see things that don't make sense and you don't understand. But if you can take a step back to really understand the hard things, the challenges that the country has experienced and that is persevering through, you'll have a lot more empathy and you'll be able to settle in a lot better, because you will have taken the time to understand more about the people and what their experience has been like, and why you get to experience the level of lifestyle that you get to experience today. It is not, it did not go without sincere, severe sacrifice. You know, our ancestors were, we had ancestors before the slave ships. So the things that happened here is as important to me. It's as important that I continue to learn and understand and honor the experiences that South Africans have gone through, because it is what I get to experience now because of their sacrifice and because of, the experience and the victories that they experience because of that. So
exactly. Yeah. And again, because we get this criticism a lot, guys, we don't want to make any place seem like Nirvana, like Utopia. You have to build your own Utopia. And there are going to be things wherever you are that you're like, okay, this is some. Does corruption have a part to play in the non-investment of the country? I don't think it's a non-investment of the country. I think it's a non-investment in parts of cities. Right. I think also, so one of the things that was brought up in the study that was pretty interesting is my friend grew up in Mfuleni, which is a suburb of Cape Town, and it's a township, and he still lives in Mfuleni, and Mfuleni it's hard to get to, and unless you have a car, there are not going to be as many opportunities for work. I don't understand why they are not building some more dense housing as opposed to just replacing the old, like corrugated steel with permanent housing in the same place without the rest of the infrastructure around it. So those are those kind of urban planning decisions that the government has made are not it seems to me that it still has vestiges of apartheid. Like, okay, this is where they got settled, so this is where they are. And maybe they heard some concerns from the community. We don't want you to break up our community. This is family. I don't know. But in hindsight, it's really easy in hindsight to sit here and say that probably was not the best decision for every single township. I'm really trying to be politically correct here because
because there are some parts that still have traditional leadership, right? So KwaZulu-Natal is, one of the biggest provinces in South Africa, and it is not completely run by the South African government. Like, they are run by their own traditional leadership structure, chiefs, and, and the king and the family. And so things are not what we see them as and what we've learned government to look like. And while they are a new democracy, they're trying to adopt these things, while also a lot of it is culturally conflicted.
Right.
It's just not, it doesn't fit their cultural practices. And so those are challenges that definitely do exist, but also opportunities, right? And so a lot of the infrastructure development, so like even with our challenges, right, our light challenges, our electricity challenges, a lot of these things are becoming privatized because the government is like, they don't have enough necessarily, just the bandwidth, the capacity, the expertise. So people are going to the government and getting tenders and privatizing solar, privatizing, these generators, privatizing water, privatizing security. So these type of privatizing logistics. So if you have that type of skill set and you've worked in infrastructure development, alternative energy, these type of opportunities are available for you to come see the problems, see the opportunities, create the solution, and forge ahead. So these things they're there, but they can be looked at as opportunities. If you have that level of industry behind you.
Yeah. And that's a perfect segue
That's a good segue.
Right? Into what, baby? What segue into what?
It's a good segue into African Investor Academy.
Okay. Tell us about it.
Thanks, Rick. I started the Africa Investors Academy about a little over a year ago. I had a desire to do business on the continent, and I wanted to be in a community of like-minded people that also wanted to do the same thing. And I had jumped into a couple of different online communities. A lot of the conversation that I was hearing was exporting. People were living in the West and they wanted to import goods from Africa, and they wanted to create these exporting businesses, but they didn't necessarily have the desire to live on the continent now. They just wanted the business aspect of it. So I saw that as an opportunity to create a community of like-minded people that wanted to build a business for the growth of the continent, with also the intention of a better life for themselves and their families, but to add value, to serve. And today we have over 35 members all over the world. I had a group coaching session today. We had a woman in New York, a woman in Arizona, a woman here in South Africa, as well as a woman in Paris, France. And so our members are in different countries on the continent, different countries globally. It's beautiful. We're building businesses in the areas of tourism, personal and professional development, agribusiness, exporting, and content creation, so storytelling. And it's been a beautiful, beautiful experience. Today, we were really just talking about, it was women that joined the call. So we were talking about just what it's like right now for women that are living in the US, and then our member that's in Paris. And it was more of a, there's a lot of personal development that goes into this journey. Deciding to move abroad. We're at a deficit of self-esteem when we're living in these spaces that force us to question ourselves, to just dishonor ourselves, that gaslight us, so we need to restore that self-esteem that allows us to have the courage, the innate creativity, the capacity to serve, to give, but we need to first give that to ourselves and start that process. So in the community, we talk about all of that. We also talk about skills to help you build a location independent business, so that you're bringing in some revenue and you can bring that revenue in from anywhere. in the world. And it's been a beautiful experience. We're launching our virtual summit this year. We did it last year, but it was just like a live on YouTube, and it was great. There was a lot of value. But this year we have almost 20 speakers from all over the continent in places that the diaspora is like really focused on migrating to. So if you have an interest in moving to Ghana, we've got some folks that are going to be talking about Ghana, opportunities in Ghana, best practices in Ghana, the same as Tanzania, Kenya, as well as South Africa.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. So Rwanda's not in there?
Rwanda was supposed to be in there, but our speaker, she was just not able to make it. So hopefully next year, Rwanda will be on the list. And I'm hoping that after this one, it will attract people that will want to join, because this is literally me pulling people from the community that I built on YouTube or the people that I know. And I'm just like, hey guys, and they're doing it, right? So it's not just because I know them, they actually have a story to tell. They have value to add, and they're going to give people tangible tools that they can walk away with to really turn their vision into action. So the theme of the summit is turn your African vision into action. And you're going to get not only like hardcore tools, the speakers have also offered to give their contact information so that you can connect with them outside of the summit and really have a resource, a tangible, a person that can help you along your way.
I love it.
Cool.
I love it.
Wow.
I know it's a lot of work, girl. Been there, done that.
I know. I can't wait to talk offline, because I'm gonna ask, like, what are some of the best practices?
I'm happy to answer, because it will be easier next year. I know that. I'm sure Krishan's still watching. It'll be easier next year, but it is more than a notion. Yes. That sounds wonderful. Y'all, we have been talking for 2 hours. We're going to let Ashley go. But I'm sure you're going to have more questions. If you have more questions about her academy, her virtual summit, or you just want to follow her journey, you done made your money, you ain't interested in all that. You just want to come retire in South Africa. You can follow her. All of her information is in the description below. I also just put it in the chat with links so that you can sign up for her stuff. Y'all don't wait and don't think, oh, maybe next year, because today's price is not tomorrow's price.
Nope.
So go ahead and get it done. If you think you might want to do this, we just got a super chat. Oh, DY, you are so sweet.
Thank you, DY.
So let me put that up. Y'all, you know that we have a course called Beyond the Bling, Money Mindset Makeover for Financial Independence. 100% of our super thanks, super sticker money goes to our scholarship fund for Beyond the Bling. So thank you, DY. Thank you. And our community thanks you as well. Yeah, we are. We're trying to change lives around here, right? Mm-hmm. We're trying to help make dreams come true around here. And we're trying to offer you the shortcuts so that you don't have to go through all of the steps, that you can skip some of the steps, because we got you, right? We've given you that information, and you don't have to go through the same things that we went through, right? So if you found this information helpful, please hit that like button. Ashley was out of control. We're going to have you back.
Oh, definitely.
We're going to have you back. And
I would love that.
Right. And then get a part 2 so we can hear, how it's going, how your business is going, and all of that. You have been absolutely wonderful. If you have questions for us, our information is below in every single one of our videos. You can just look in the description to book a call. If you want to see the Move to Portugal replays from the virtual summit, this gives you everything you need to know. Where's our friend up here? Gerald. Gerald, I've never been to Grenada, Spain. In my opinion, Spain does not compare to Portugal. I believe Portugal, the folks are nicer, and Black folks blend in more in Portugal. Right here, one of the sponsors of our Move to Portugal Virtual Summit is Serenity. Serenity Cares is a medical concierge service. Contact Michael over at Serenity and ask him about neurologists, all right?
Yeah, you don't have to be in Portugal to do that. You can do it from the States or wherever you're from, and they'll take care of you.
Exactly. And then luxury bucket list, send me an email about plane tickets and stuff, girl. We talk about Africa. We ain't talking about plane tickets to Lisbon. But you know what? We'll help you. We got you covered. Just send us an email. hello@ourblackutopia.com. We are going to be back in Portugal next week. What are we talking about? I don't know. What should we? Because the people,
our trip to Africa,
maybe with the people we were supposed to interview had a family emergency, so we're rescheduling them. So they will come on at another time. So what do you want us to talk about next week, fam? Let us know.
Let us know.
Let us know in the chat, in the comments below. I know I'm behind in replying to comments and emails and everything else and letting people in the Facebook. Y'all, this is not no big, huge company. It's this. This is the company right here.
There's a lot of comments.
Yeah, there are a lot of comments. We are going to catch up. Usually, actually, I answer every single comment. And usually I don't let more than 48 hours pass. I'm like 10 days behind.
It be like that when you're growing, you know,
Yeah.
when the value is what it is and people are finding you and coming, yeah, it becomes a lot. But just know that the intention and the heart is there, because I used to be the same, like, but it's like, wow, I'm growing and I just,
it's hard.
It gets harder. It gets harder and harder. So grace, community, give our leaders grace, because they're here and they're serving and they're making a difference, and it's powerful, and it's just beautiful to see you both doing this work and sharing and telling your story authentically and unapologetically. There's just a beautiful community of just like elders on YouTube that I love seeing, because life doesn't stop, after 30s or 40s of the internet tries to tell you. And it's just beautiful to see your love, your commitment, and your commitment to our people. And it's beautiful. Yes, it's beautiful to see. And I'm so grateful. Yeah.
And that's a great note to end it on. We love y'all, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.